Okay, our next item on the agenda is a presentation. We have an update on the DIA programs in Macomb County. We have joining us today Mr. Salvador Salort-Pons, the DIA director, and some other friends from Macomb County past. So we'll start with Mr. Pons. If you'd like to please let us know what's going on with the DIA. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, and thank you to all the commission for having us here today. We are going to give a little bit of an update of the programs and exhibitions that we have coming up this year. I'd like to start by thanking all of you for your wonderful support, the support of Macomb County. And as I mentioned in the past, when I came here to speak in front of all of you, we are very, very grateful for the amazing, extraordinary financial support that you provide to the Detroit Institute of Arts. But I am even more grateful, like my entire staff, for the fact that this millage, this financial support, has changed the culture of the organization. In the past, we used to be an organization that looked inwards. Now we're looking outwards. We're going beyond the walls of the museum to serve the counties, to serve the communities, to serve Macomb. And our service agreement is the perfect example of the work that we do. We'll talk about some programs today, and those programs and exhibitions reflect the fact that we have Macomb County in our minds and that we want to serve the residents in the best possible way. I brought some members of my team today. Right after me, Dave Flynn, who is the Executive Director for Public Affairs, will give an update. And after him, Julie McFarland, our Officer in Public Affairs Department, will speak about our upcoming programs in 2018. Dave?
Thank you, Salvador. Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. It's good to be back. I'll let you know if I like being on this side of the podium better after
Please
this
state
exchange.
your name for the record, sir.
Welcome. I'm giving you a brief update. We're 5 years into a 10-year millage at this point. And so what I do at the DIA is I'm Director of Public Affairs. And what that means is I manage our relationships with the 3 different counties and the 3 art authorities. After the millage passed in 2012, those art authority members, which one is with us here today, Jen Miller, they sat down and they negotiated the broad strokes of our articles of incorporation. They looked at having school programming. They looked at senior programs, community partnerships. And those are specific goals that are outlined that we have to meet as an institution each and every year. For the school program, you'll see contractually it's $75,000, 8,000 students. Senior program, $50,000, 35 trips. And for community partnerships, $75,000. That also includes free general admission to every resident of the county throughout the year. We meet and exceed those goals each year. I think the past few years we've been even up to 16,000 students, almost double what we're contractually required to do. And so to the art authorities that we report directly to, which you appoint members to and the executive does, I know Deputy Executive Lavers is a liaison to the Art Authority. We come out in January of each year and we talk about the upcoming program plan that we have outlined that we're going to do in the communities, each of the counties. Then we come back in April and we give the year-end review for audited numbers, the audit for the program plan. So today we aren't prepared to talk about what happened in 2017 yet. That will be when we come back in April. And then in August or September of each year, we want to come back to the commission and talk about our half-year report, talk about upcoming exhibitions, and just stay in touch and in tune with your comments, your suggestions on what we can do with the DIA. This is something that we've done with the Art Authority in previous years, but we want to make sure that we have more of a constant contact with the commissions and to be in front of you for 3 times a year. Salvador has tasked me to evaluate how the programming has gone in the first 5 years. What can we do to enhance, to improve our relevance in the community, how we can be more impactful on programming, reaching different geographic audiences. And our first primary focus is always going to be the art authorities, the Board of Commissioners, the executive offices, because that is who we report to under this mechanism. But we have to broaden that base. We have to continue to foster relationships in the K-12 community, in the college community. We have to look in the business community and make sure that we're on the ground level at the grassroots providing services that Julie will outline after my presentation. And I think it's important to understand the context of this is because when a millage passed in August of 2012 and the Art Authority members were appointed, they spent 2-3 months trying to negotiate a contract. And once that contract was signed in November or December of that year, in January of 13, when the millage started, we had to run and make sure we met those goals. And we probably could have built a better foundation at that time. And so I think that's a lot of the work that we're trying to put into is to make sure that we're communicating what we do to residents. And that leads us into our next slide here, which I haven't been so good at. Community leaders list. Obviously, we want to communicate what we do to our primary focus, but we have to broaden that base to those people and those key constituencies that you see above. And with us today, we have Jonathan Solish, who is a recent graduate of Michigan State University who was hired as an intern to put this together. Obviously, it's an easy thing to do, but it's laborious and requires somebody to sit in front of the computer and type in and put in Excel each one of these names and make sure the list is updated in the 3 counties. One of the interesting projects that we're working on now is mapping. The DIA asked me, where should we be in the community? And to answer that question, I needed to know where we've been in the past 5 years. And so you'll see each one of those different colors up there. This is our school program, which is our most populated program, the one that probably reaches the most amount of people. And this is per zip code, and each color of that represents a different school that we've had a relationship with in the last 5 years. We can do that for senior trips to the address of where we picked up that senior group. And we'll be able to show you that more in the future as we develop this program. But what that tells us is it allows us to know where we've been in the past 5 years, but it allows us to know where we haven't been. Where if we see big geographic areas that we haven't had a presence, we need to make sure that we're out there beating the drum, using your resources, using people in your community to make sure that we're providing senior trips in those areas, school trips, etc. So this is a really important tool of how we operate at the DIA now. And so some of our goals that we have this year is to complete that mapping list. It's to reach out to each of the commissioners, have them down to the museum. We'd love to come to your districts, but we'd like to have you at the DIA. We'd like to host you. We'd like to show you what we have available and try to find something that makes sense to do in your district because we do have a wide array of programming to offer. And so the County Leaders Night is also part of our agreement, but it's something that's really exciting. We show a preview to all of you, and we want to make sure that you have saved the date for Star Wars Power of Costumes and our baseball card exhibit, which Salvador will talk about a little bit later. But that will be on May 18th in Crystal Gallery, and you'll be able to preview those exhibitions. As I said, we'd love to come back to the commission, continue to tell the DIA story, make sure we communicate to more leaders, key constituencies in the county, and make sure that we're following up as much as we can with the partnership that we have together. And so with that, I'd like to introduce Julie McFarland to kind of go over some of the county services that are offered. Then Salvador will go over the exhibition schedule, and we can do questions after that, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Hello. I'm Julie McFarland. I'm just going to briefly review sort of the outline of the services that we provide. Free general admission every day. That is unlimited. And I know Dave's talking about communication, but one of our big goals in 2018 is to really focus on communication and make sure that residents have that message that they can come to the museum as many times as they want throughout the year. The next area of the service agreement is field trips and teacher professional development. So the service agreement calls for 8,000 students to come yearly to the museum from Macomb County. We have met and exceeded that every year, so our plan for 2018 is to continue to exceed and build that number. We provide free transportation for all school groups that come. And there's a big roster of field trip offerings that we've developed and that we continue to add to that are aligned with the curriculum in Macomb County schools. The second part of sort of student services is teacher professional development. So we have a big list of teacher professional development offerings that we have throughout the year for teachers in Wayne, Oakland, and Macomb counties. And these are general teacher PDs, where we bring them down and show them different ways that they can use the art in the collection to make connections in the classroom. We also have customized teacher professional development, and these are partnerships that we develop specifically with particular schools and individual school districts to meet outcomes that they want to see in their classrooms through the collection. The senior program, we have a requirement to meet 35 senior trips to the museum a year, as well as $50,000 worth in spending. We have developed a program called Thursdays at the Museum. It allows for a lot of variety. So every Thursday we offer something different to seniors every Thursday of the month. So the first Thursday of the month is tours of the permanent collection, followed by art talks, followed by art making, and then films in the Detroit Film Theater is the last Thursday of the month. Every event is accompanied by a complimentary reception and free transportation for groups of 25 or more. New for 2018, we're adding special quarterly events. So every quarter we'll have a special offering that seniors can participate in. Last quarter it was performance by Mosaic Youth Theater, and this first quarter of 2018 it will be Jewish Ensemble Theater's Diary of Anne Frank. We also do behind-the-scene art talks, and those are in the community. We do those in the community at senior centers and recreation centers for folks who want a DIA experience but don't want to come down to the museum. And community partnership programs. I think in your folder you have the narrative that details all the community partnership programs that we have planned for 2018 right now. I'm just going to highlight a few of the big ones. For those of you who aren't familiar with all of them, DIA Way, Think Like an Artist. I'm not sure if any of you have had the chance to be on that. That's a community program. It's actually a 53-foot double-wide trailer. And yes, it is mobile. We bring that to community events and community accessible locations in schools in Macomb County. So it's basically inside, participants will discover different ways that artists think and then make that sort of leap to how that can be applied to other careers and hobbies that we may not think of as artistic. So when you walk inside, to the right-hand side, we have reproductions of 4 or 5 pieces from the museum, and it kind of walks through like what the artist was thinking and how they were created. And then the second side, the left-hand side, is gives participants an opportunity to try out their thinking, their creative thinking skills in digital and hands-on stations. So that's DIA Way. Drop-in art making, we do that primarily in the summer months, where we come to fairs and festivals in Macomb County and set up hands-on art making for anyone who's attending those. Director's Cut. I like to say we put Salvador on the road. Wherever there's a group of people who'd like to know more about the museum, Salvador goes out and shares his vision for the museum, upcoming events. It's another way for us to make sure we're communicating everything, all the benefits of the millage to residents. And then Inside Out. Probably most of you have seen Inside Out. This is where we take reproductions from the museum and we put them into like an open air art gallery in the community. So for 2018, our plans are to be at Freedom Hill County Park. That will be installed in April, and it'll run through, I think, the end of July. We'll be in Shelby Township for spring installations, and then in the summer, we'll have Inside Out at Macomb Community College on both of those campuses, and then we're working on partnering to bring Inside Out to Blake's and Yates cider mills. So this program is really important for the museum. We don't apply any of the spending to the service agreements, but this is really a great way for us to make relationships in the counties, meet people who are out in the counties, and help inform future community partnerships. And then I'm going to let Salvador finish up.
Thank you, Julie. And I want to emphasize what Julie was saying about Director Scott. I love to come to Macomb. I was last Thursday at the Anton Center. We had a great crowd. I was able to present my vision for the organization and the programs that we have. It is always great to have a conversation with residents and to listen a little bit what they think, what the museum could be, what kinds of programs and exhibitions they would like to see at the DIA. And the exhibition program that I am presenting now is a little bit result of those director's cuts, me being in the community and really understanding what are the goals and or the programs that the community would like to see in the museum, and how can we bring those programs to the museum level so we are always presenting something of very high quality. As you all know, we have still on our exhibition Monet Framing Live. There are 3 weeks left. We have reached over 70,000 visitors. Many of them are from Macomb, and I hope to have some information about that in the next meeting when we'll be here in April. It's a terrific show. Please make sure to see it, because we brought from the National Gallery in Washington 7 masterpieces by Monet that you can only see either in books of art history or at the National Gallery, and now you have it here at the DIA. For the spring and summer, as Dave was saying, we have this small but very, very strong exhibition about baseball cards. We have identified the third best collection of baseball cards in the world. It's a gentleman here who lives in Detroit metro area. He is the owner of the famous Honus Wagner card that you can see on the screen. We're going to show his collection of baseball cards together with some works from the DIA collection that feature baseball themes. We're partnering with the Tigers. We want the fans during the summer to come to see the exhibition, park at the DIA, take the queue line, and go to see the exhibition and go to see the Tigers. We're very excited about this exhibition. We're also introducing during the entire summer the exhibition on Star Wars. This is an amazing show. It's going to start in May and go all the way through September. It's an exhibition targeted to our target audiences, which are families with young children. And it's an exhibition that explains the power of creativity, how these costume designers created through sketches, drawings, and other ways of artistic ways, the costumes that you see in the exhibition Star Wars. It's also a way for us, and as you know, we have a wonderful Detroit Film Theater at the DI, which has one of the best film programs in the country. It is also a way for us, as I was mentioning, to bring the DFT closer to our exhibition program. One of the things I'm more excited about is the multimedia tour that the visitors will have when they come and see the show, because in this multimedia tour you will see images of some of the works of art which are in our permanent collection that are sources of inspiration for the costumes that they'll see in the exhibition. For example, the famous Darth Vader helmet was actually inspired on a Japanese samurai helmet and things like that. So it's an opportunity for them to see Star Wars, but also an opportunity for our audiences to discover the collection of the DIA, your collection, with different eyes. We also will be opening our Asian galleries this fall in November 4th. We opened last fall the Japan galleries, and now this year we will be doing the great opening with not only Japan, but India, China, and Korea. And our annual gala will be inspired by Asian themes. Last but not least, at the end of the year, we will have an exhibition organized by 2 very important artists from Cuba, Ruben and Isabel Toledo. Isabel Toledo is a fashion designer. She created the outfit for Michelle Obama the day of the inauguration, and they will be doing interventions in the galleries. Ruben is a painter, and also a small exhibition in our temporary galleries. They will also be engaging with our community, and will be working with an organization called So Great Detroit that brings together young ladies to learn how to sew. So they are going to do a project with Isabel, the fashion designer, and then this will be on view at the museum. So this is a little bit summary of the programs of 2018. I don't want to reveal anything that we're preparing for 2019, but I tell you, you're going to like it. So, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions that the commission might have.
Thank you, Salvador. Before we move on to questions, we need a motion to receive and file. Moved by Commissioner Sauger, supported by Commissioner Carabelli. Okay, do we have questions for Mr. Salvador? You have to. Okay, first up we have Commissioner Myjack.
Salvador, Dave, and Julie, thank you very much for coming here today. I just have a question, because I took a tour with Dave a few months ago, and I sort of didn't know a lot about the permanent collection of the DIA, that a lot of those paintings came into being from the wealth that was created of people in Detroit in the auto industry in the 20s and 30s. Mm-hmm. And I believe, obviously, those paintings tell a story, but I'm also curious of the people who acquired those paintings. And I'm wondering if you could give a history very briefly of the DIA and how it came into being, and going back to those people who acquired all of this art during the time that Detroit was one of the wealthiest and largest city in the country.
Absolutely. I'd love to do that. I would love to have 45 minutes, but I'm going to do it in 45 seconds if I can. You know, the museum was founded in the 19th century, and really the building of the great collection, which is the fifth best in the United States, started in the 1920s when there was a director called William Valentiner. There were all these amazing patron of the arts and great businessmen who were behind the automotive industry, like the Ford family and the Fisher family and many others. And all the collection that the museum has basically has been gifts of art that came to the DIA, and or there have been the creation of endowments. We are one of the few museums in the country that has endowments specifically devoted for acquisitions. We cannot use the return of those endowments for anything else but just to acquire art. And that has allowed the collection to grow significantly and to bring great quality to the museum. We have 65,000 objects. Our European collection is the third best in the United States. We have a very, very good American collection, perhaps the fifth in the country, and I would say the first or the second best collection of African American art. Of course, we're an encyclopedic museum. We have amazing masterpieces from all cultures. And just as a quick note, I would say that we are the first museum in the United States to buy a painting by Van Gogh. We're the first museum in the United States to buy a painting by Matisse. There is a small gallery that we just opened recently in January, which is new acquisition galleries, where we feature some of the new works of art that the museum has bought with endowments that were created that I was mentioning to you, the Ford, the Fishers, the Kanzlers, and many, many others. And also the gifts that have been given to the museum recently. So if you have the chance to come to the museum in the upcoming months, I'll be glad to show you our new acquisitions and gifts galleries.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Next up, we have Commissioner Romano.
Thank you. Salvador, if I may, Salvador?
Please, please.
Not only do we have a director with a wonderful name,
Thank
but
you.
a beautiful accent. I really, really enjoy that
I'll
accent.
let my mother know.
Listen, first I wanted to thank you for these tickets that we received, these VIP tickets that were outdated. We just got them. I think it was done through October to January the 15th. I think they're in our packet.
Those are for the church exhibition.
No, these expired already. We just got them. David, shame on you, but that's another story.
They're
That's
still
David.
good for Monet until March 4th.
So let me explain. The Monet, the Frederick Church exhibition ended in January 15th, but we still have the Monet show up until March 4th.
So
Those
these
are
are still-
valid. You can use them.
Very good.
I guarantee.
Okay. You have to pay any field trips, teacher professional development, free transportation for all school groups. Is there certain grades that you allow, or can somebody answer that? What grades do attend?
K through 12.
All the way through the 12th. I think that's a wonderful program. They get them familiar with what is down there, because a lot of the kids today, young kids today, if it isn't on an IT or something on a computer or their iPads or iPhones, they're not even interested. So it's good to enlighten them there. The senior program. Do you keep track of what the attendance is of the seniors that do show up for that? I mean, is there a record of that? Do you have something that
Yes,
you
we
can
do.
throw out at me?
Yes, we do, and we'll give you a report on that in April. We're gathering the data from last year.
Good. And you also mentioned that you're gathering the data for the number of Macomb County residents
Yes.
that attend because believe it or not, Salvatore, the people that I talk to, and they're not all ignorant, but the ones that I do talk to, a lot of them have never been down to the DIA for whatever reasons, transportation, mobility, the difficulty of getting down there, parking and so forth. So I'd be very interested to see how many Macomb County residents use that.
We have that very much in our mind, and the fact that we are creating this kind of exhibition program is to attract more people from Macomb. Absolutely.
And I think Ms. McFarland mentioned the fact that there was something about $50,000 that is utilized that must be spent. And who checks that 50? I mean, where's the check and balances for that 50,000? Maybe I misheard.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly the $50,000 point.
So I think we had a slide on that earlier.
Right, seniors, school programs, so forth.
At the beginning, yep.
Yeah. So right now, so we go through a process with Plant Moran. We engage them. They're working on that right now. So when we come back in April, we'll have the final numbers that have been reviewed by Plant Moran for all of those things that are laid out for the service agreements.
And the dollar amounts.
Dollar amounts and then participation numbers. For the senior program, there's a number of trips, and for the school program, here we are, 8,000 students. So
Thank you,
all
Ms.
of these numbers will be verified by Plant Moran, and we'll present that in April.
Thank you, Ms. McFarland. The last thing I just want to mention is just conversation and going inside out with presenting those pictures out with Freedom Hill and Shelby Township and Blake's, which I think is a tremendous idea. We had some of these at the Nature Center, I think it was a year or so back. And believe it or not, we had residents come to me as a council member and ask, how can you possibly put out those expensive pictures and not have somebody guard them? That's how the quality of what you had out there. So I certainly appreciate it. I know my residents in Sterling Heights appreciate it. So feel free to come over to the Nature Center and put them back up. A lot of them will see them at Freedom Hill. So thank you very much for your presentation,
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
I have the same comments about the quality of the reproductions, and later I'll tell you an anecdote. But one of the things that I would like to mention is that I get great joy by showing those reproductions, and in some occasions, some of the cities have invited me to come and give a tour of the reproduction, so I'm happy to do it and engage the community on a walking tour, especially during the summer, not now. But
Thank you so much. That's all I have, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Next, we have Chairman Smith.
Thank you. Salvador, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
Mine's pretty quick here. When this millage first came upon us years back, I wasn't sure which way I wanted to go on this. And part of that came from the ignorance and not being down at the DIA and doing my community service to myself and getting down there and really seeing what it was all about. But I'll tell you, since then, and especially since you've taken charge, the outreach, the community outreach, the willingness to see what worked and what doesn't work and change it to what works. I mean, when you talked about instead of looking inward like we used to, we're looking outward, I think that's a perfect way to go, because you guys are very, you're very responsive to things that that work, and you carry them on, and you're responsive to things that maybe don't work so well, and you either move on from them or change them into something that works. All of these programs are fantastic. I just wanted to say that I guess there's someone here that probably could take a little credit for the for the Star Wars and the baseball card exhibit, and that's just one example that people talk to you and talk about some of the things that maybe possibilities, and you look at them and you come up with ideas, and your team, and I'm sure that this is more than just you, except for Dave. And but I just want to say how happy I have been with the support that you've given Macomb County for our support with the tax dollars. I think it's been a wonderful partnership.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for the very nice words. This is, of course, a team effort, but I want to reiterate what you just said. We want to be in the community. I want to be personally involved with the community, do my director's cut, but it's also true that we want to communicate with all of you, and that's the reason why we want to come here to this, in front of this commission 3 times a year, to maintain our dialogue, to keep you informed, and to hear your opinions and ideas, and how can we take these ideas to the museum and have the wonderful thing that we have, put them together to create those opportunities and programs for all the residents in Macomb. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And I will say my boys know the dates of the Star Wars and the baseball exhibit, when they will start. So you're off to a great start with the young people, too.
Thank you.
One note on a little of criticism on that. I noticed the Star Wars exhibit starts on May the 20th. Any chance we could start it on May the 4th? So May the 4th is with us.
Well, that's a great point. That's a great point. We weren't thinking about that. What you just said was in the planning. However, we know that the new film will premiere. What day is it?
That weekend, the Memorial Day weekend, solo.
Solo. So we wanted to make it combined. So we also premiere and get all the excitement in the community to come to the museum. But yeah. That was in our minds.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Glad it occurred to you folks.
Thank you. We had to make a decision there.
Understood. Commissioner Sauger, you had a question?
Salvador, a little history on that baseball card. This was found in an attic out east in an old picture, and it was in the back of a picture. And a person bought it for $25, the picture. And then he kept it in the garage or whatnot, because I read this in an article about 2 years ago. They then, for some reason, they were moving, and the picture fell or broke. And in the back was a Hannes Wagner baseball card.
Boy.
And it's priceless to this day. So that's a story that I found, which was really interesting, how somebody got a valuable piece of art just by accident. Thank you.
That's a great anecdote. I will remember it now that we are having the exhibition with the baseball cards.
Okay, are there other commissioners that have a question or anything for the Commissioner Kleinfeld? I don't see it.
No. I'm just trying to help you.
Oh, okay. Commissioner Carabelli.
Thank you for the presentation, everyone. This is great, and I'll echo Chair Smith's sentiments. I'm pleasantly surprised. I think the direction the DIA is taking now from where they were in the very beginning is, in my personal opinion, done 180. I think that good things are going on. I'm thoroughly impressed with the process of, the baseball card thing. Again, it's a 50-year anniversary of the Detroit Tigers World Series. The museum down the street from there is also having a display put up as well. And the opportunity to go down and spend the time and try to do all of this is something that really needs to be somehow put together, because you can spend a weekend down there and get a hotel room and just enough stuff to do right there. Mm-hmm. It's pretty cool stuff. On that note, when you come up with your numbers, for me, it's very important, though, you not only show the Macomb County and Oakland and Wayne. I'd like to see the out counties as well. I would like to see St. Clair, Monroe, Washtenaw, all the members of SEMCOG, to see those amount of residents are going as well. One thing you guys kind of touched over lightly and you did touch on it, was the schools, the children coming down there. I don't know if the rest of the commissioners are aware of this, but a former chair of this board worked very diligently with the Macomb County superintendents and the DIA, getting them together and putting programs together. And I think it's a requirement, and if I don't mind embarrassing, Dave, is it not true that every fourth grader in Utica Community Schools, every fourth grader, there's a curriculum that was been devised by the DIA that every student has to take as part of going through the fourth grade. And I believe that each school district has their own thing. I'm just intimate with that particular one. But to show how they're truly engaging and putting this together, and for these kids to understand it, they didn't have it when I was a kid. Went down there and I just like, wow, this is pretty cool stuff. So on that end, I'd like to congratulate you. You guys are, again, it's 180 degrees from where you guys were at before. And it's I'm pleasantly surprised as well, so congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Okay, with no other speakers, I'd just like to make a personal note that, as you are aware, Salvador, I am concerned about the number of people from Macomb that are coming to the DIA. Have broad concerns about the concept of taxing folks for something that I feel that has a limited appeal in some ways. I mean, there's only a certain market out there for people who are interested in seeing the Monet exhibit or the classics. But I have to give you credit for looking beyond just the traditional art, for lack of a better word, aficionado, and saying, how can we get a broader audience of folks? And expanding the exhibits to something like the sports exhibits, or showing that art is something that permeates more than just old paintings from ancient places in Europe, and that we enjoy and experience art in a lot of ways beyond those the old textbook art that what we expect to see. And so the Star Wars exhibit and that sort of thing, I think, does give the museum a chance to bring in a new type of audience that really does appreciate the creativity, appreciate the beauty, appreciate art that surrounds us in our world, but doesn't always associate with the DIA, which they think is just going to be some old painting in a gold frame. Mm-hmm. So I thank you for really working hard to look for ways to broaden out how to bring art to and recognize art in our society. So thank you for that.
Thank you for your comments, and I'm grateful for the entire commission. Any feedback, any ideas, we want to listen to them. We want to open our minds and do things differently to serve you all better. So what you're saying is just helping us. And as I mentioned at the beginning, I'm very proud of the program that we have this year. And I am pretty sure you're going to like the one that we have for 2019, that we are working on it right now. So thank you again.
Well, thank you very much, and thank your team for coming today as well and presenting. Okay, with that, we do have a motion to receive and file that's been made.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh, yeah, Maria.
Okay, I'm going to assume that motion passed. Thank you again for your participation, your being here today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.